I was like, how do I get to this meeting? So I went to the fourth floor
Oh, no.
and then I had to come back. I thought, great, I'm going to be late for the prayer, but I made it. I made it. So Pastor Fred is out of town and I'm one of his assistant pastors. And so he asked me to come and pray. So are we ready to go?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
glad to have you. Thank you.
Father, we thank you so much for this wonderful day. And Lord, we just ask your blessing upon this meeting. And we ask you for guidance and wisdom and support. And Father, I pray that the grace and the peace of the Lord Jesus Christ would be upon every city council member and upon every person here. And Father, help us to engage in meaningful discussions and allow everyone to grow closer as a group and be stronger in the bond of unity. Father, fill us with your grace and help us regarding decisions that affect the men and women and children in Lincoln. And Father, may we always endeavor to follow your plan. For your word says that many are the plans of man, but the Lord directs his steps. So Father, may our council members and everyone, Father, in leadership, may they humble themselves and may they look to you and trust in you with all of their heart, Father, and not lean to their own understanding. For Lord, you know what's right and you know what's wrong. Father, you know what's good and you know what's bad. And Lord, you said that you know the thoughts that you think towards us, thoughts of good and not of evil, that we would have a future and a hope. Father, we know that that not only means people, but it means communities, it means cities, Father, it means board members and council members. Father, it means towns and districts. And so we thank you for that. And Lord, may you continue to remind us that everything that gets done and everything that gets accomplished is for the pursuit of truth and for your great glory, Father. So may your highest and your best be done in this meeting. And we ask these things in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
And thank
All
you
right.
so much, Pastor.
I hope you all don't mind if I pray and run.
No, that's
Okay.
good. Thank you
All right.
very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Appreciate it. All right. Well, welcome to the May 24th, 2022 regular meeting, City of Lincoln, City Council, Redevelopment Successor Agency, Public Financing Authority. I call this meeting to order. Ms. Scanlon, can I have the roll call, please?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Joyner,
Here.
Councilmember Carl Skint,
Here.
Councilmember Lauritsen,
Here.
and Councilmember Silhai.
Here.
And Mayor Andriotta.
Here, thank you. Hey, item number 3, report from closed session, Ms. Mollenkoff.
We did not have a closed session this evening, so there's no report.
Thank you. And then item number 4, Pledge of Allegiance. Travis Williams, our city engineer, is going to lead for us.
Ask everyone to stand and face the flag. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, item number 5, agenda modifications. The published agenda contained wrong resolution numbers and should have begun with 2022-116. The correct agendas are here on the dais for us and up front, and will be included with the meeting minutes. So those of you who are watching at home or here in the council chamber, just make note of that. And do we have any agenda modifications from anyone on the council or any staff?
Nope.
Okay, right. Moving right along. Item number 6, presentations. We have one video presentation tonight from the annual mosquito and vector control update.
No sound.
So we can't hear Megan.
Megan, you're muted.
No, it's recorded. organic gummy bears or something. No, thank you. Oh, that's fine. I was gonna, right, I was just gonna suggest, but the problem is, next item is public comment, but I think he needs to be up there to work on it, and so. So just give us a moment. We are having technical difficulties with this video. So that's why there's silence and nothing on your screen. Okay. Didn't we have this conversation the other day? Okay.
The council could also choose to continue this item to the
That's
next
what we're gonna
meeting.
do. I just wanted to give them, my question was, our next item is public comment. And they're working here at the podium to fix it. And so I guess we could do public comment on the side, or we can come back. I was just trying to think of the best way to navigate that. They can do on the side there?
Yeah, they could
Okay.
use the
All
mic
right,
on the
so we'll
side.
come back to you guys. Keep working. Oh, okay. Awesome. That's why we love you.
Why don't we continue
Yeah,
to the next
yeah,
meeting?
we will. Oh, we can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Time sensitive.
No, Jen, it's not time sensitive. We can just continue to the next meeting. Don't even worry about it. So we'll bring this item back at the next meeting. Sean, is that okay? All right, okay. Yeah, yeah, it won't change.
Only with audio, yes.
Yes. Thank you guys for trying. Okay, so we will move on. We'll bring that back at the next meeting and we'll move on to item number 7, public comment on non-agenda items. So do we have any comments on Zoom?
Mayor, no hands are raised.
Okay. And then do we have any public comment on non-agenda items in the chamber? Mr. Chapman, go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members, city staff, and those viewing at home. Just a quick note, but something that once in a while needs to be maybe just thrown out there. Oftentimes at the city, we lead by example. We've had things in the past that have really reflected that issue. And this evening and last several evenings with the council meetings, just bringing it to the attention of everyone so they know. There's a vehicle that's parked in the disability parking space right outside the city hall. My vehicle's there, the access aisle, and there's another parking space. The reason is, and the reason I notice it is there's no placard displayed, nor is there a disability license plate displayed. Just for everybody's interest and so that you know, if you have a placard and you have a vehicle and you don't show the placard and put it in the rear view mirror as it's supposed to be, it's just as if you don't have the placard, you can be cited. So if there's anyone here this evening that might be doing that, you might want to reconsider and follow the law. But there are those people who oftentimes abuse that, and it makes it very difficult for law enforcement in order to figure out, now they got to get out of the car. Is it, isn't it? Even if it's laying on the dash, you have to have it displayed in order to use it. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. All right. Any other public comment in the chambers? Oh, okay. Moving on to item number 8, consent. All matters on the consent agenda are considered routine business and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the city council or resident requests a specific item be removed from the consent agenda for separate action. Any items removed will be considered after the remainder of the consent agenda. Staff has pulled item 8H. Is that the same one as last time, or is that a different one?
Yes, I'm sorry. That was left over from last cross.
So we're, okay.
I'm
That
sorry.
that looked very
That was,
familiar.
yes, a clerical error again. I'm sorry.
Not a
This is my
problem.
meeting for it, I guess.
No, that's not a problem. I thought that looked familiar. Okay, so 8H stays. Okay, do any of my colleagues wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? No, anybody from the public want to pull an item? Mr. Chapman? Okay, 8M. All right. Okay, so we will do 8M in a second. May I have a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Yes, Councilmember Joyner,
Yes.
Councilmember Carl Skint,
Yes.
Councilmember Lauritsen,
Yes.
Councilmember Silhai,
Yes.
and Mayor Andriata.
Yes. Okay, item 8M, adopt resolution 2022-125, accepting the Oak Tree Maintenance Project, CIP 468 as complete, authorize staff to unencumber any budget remaining after all expenses have been paid, and authorize the city clerk to file the notice of completion with the Placer County Recorder. Mr. Chapman, what was your question on this?
As I was reading that, Mayor, a couple of questions comes to mind. One, in the packet, it did say that it's within the realm of the budget, and I'm aware of that when this was passed. However, it really didn't state, it hit around whatever monies that would be funded through the 21-22 fiscal year for the budget, but it didn't really say how much of the funds that were remaining once this is approved this evening. So I'd like to find out what the budget is for that oak tree mitigation fund. And also find out, I know that the city also passed an agreement with Placer County in order to help them either buy particular areas to save the oak trees or any other work that needed to be done. I'd like to find out if since last March up to this March, has there been any funds outside of that from Lincoln going to Placer County? And if so, how much? Thank you.
Sean, are you able to answer that, or did you want Travis to speak to that?
Yeah, so, well, two things. First of all, I don't recall signing any additional change orders to this project, so it was completed on budget. So we're not going to be unencumbering anything in addition to what was budgeted, which is the 354,120. There was an allowance of up to 72,000 and change in change orders if necessary. That was not necessary for this project. So go back to the CIP fund. And as related to the second question, which is how many dollars have been put into oak tree mitigation, we're gonna have to run those numbers in our finance software to pull up, but we can follow up on that.
And to date, we have not given any money to the county.
Right,
No,
yeah.
that was my,
I wanted,
Yep.
just real quickly on that subject, there was before the council several months ago, a revision to our oak tree preservation ordinance that allowed for the city, instead of requiring us to purchase oak tree preservation lands within the city, it's within the region, which would then free up the city council to send funds to the PCCP. But that has not been an action item that has been before you.
And we have collected, there have been a couple of projects where that opportunity for project applicants is they've chosen to pay versus reserve. So we have collected some in that
Thank you. Okay, are there any other public comments on this item?
No hands are raised, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All right, if there's no other comments or questions from the council, could I have a motion to approve item 8M?
So move.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Carlskin,
Yeah.
Councilmember Joyner,
Yes.
Councilmember Lauritsen,
Yes.
Councilmember Silhai,
Yes.
and Mayor Andriotta.
Yes. Okay, item 9, we have a public hearing, 9A. 1, conduct a public hearing regarding the review of a tentative parcel map for 219 East 8th Street to divide 0.97 acres into 4 R1 single-family residentially zoned parcels at the southeast corner of East 8th Street and South Harold Avenue on assessor's parcel number 008301069. And number 2, find that the proposed project qualifies for a categorical exemption under section 15315, class 15 minor land division, and thereby is exempt from further environmental review under the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines. And number 3, adopt resolution 2022-130, approve the 4-lot tentative parcel map. Hi there, how are you doing, Robert? Go ahead.
How are you?
I looked up and there you were, like you appeared out of nowhere.
Good evening, Mayor Andriotta, fellow council members. In late 2014 and again in 2018, the city council approved an application for a 4-lot tentative parcel map on this exact same parcel, but unfortunately those entitlements expired. The current application is substantially the same as that of the previous approvals. The applicant, as you noted earlier, is requesting to divide a 0.98 acre parcel into 4 single-family residential parcels. And the applicant is also requesting to modify the requirement to underground the overhead utility lines along the project frontage. Property is located at the southeast corner of East 8th Street and South Harold Avenue. The property and properties to the north, west, and east are all zoned R1, single-family residential, and properties to the south are zoned R1, single-family residential. Planning Commission reviews the proposal at its regular meeting of May 20th of this year and recommended that the City Council approve the project. With regard to the underground of the utilities during the 2018 meeting, the property owner discussed the effect of the financial burden to underground the overhead utilities along the project frontage. The applicant noted that the estimate from PG&E at that time was around $200,000 just to underground the overhead utilities. The request was discussed at the council meeting, and subsequently the council was able to make the required findings and waive the requirements of undergrounding the overhead utilities. The applicant is still continuing to request that with this application. When dividing land, any resulting parcels created must conform to the underlying city regulations for zoning, general plan, and specific city requirements. In particular, this is an infill project to divide 1 parcel into 4 single-family residential parcels. Site is similar to neighboring properties and is suitable for single-family residential development. City Council will need to review the project, review the conditions of approval, have a public hearing, and look at the recommendations of the commission and act on the project. Staff would recommend the council approve the project that is in front of you this evening.
All right, thank you very much.
Happy to answer any questions. The applicant, I believe, was supposed to be here, but he is not here.
Okay, thank you. All right, any questions from the council? Paul, will start with you.
Maybe just a curiosity, Rob. We've been through this a couple of times already. It's not substantially changed. Is this simply an inability to bring a project forward? Is the marketplace not ready for it?
I wish the applicant was here to speak to that. I believe in the last 2 years, there have been some other things going on. So I think they haven't progressed on it. I don't really have an answer why. They're just requesting it.
Yeah.
This is a brand new application. So everything is expired. So a brand
Understood.
new application. before
Understood.
you
It's
this
just,
evening.
I was just curious. It's that east side of town. It can be very difficult to bring projects forward sometimes. And any way that we can get out of their way and get these projects up and going.
And I don't know if you recall, but during that same kind of time frame, there was another application that was just butting up against this one.
Right.
And I haven't had any communication with those folks. So this one at least still has a little bit of momentum. But yeah, it's kind of that
Got it.
start stop.
Yeah, thanks.
Sure.
All right. if I remember correctly, I know the planning commission did 2014. I was on it, and I think it was brought up in when the council saw this last time. The request was to change the general plan requirements for undergrounding utilities for infill projects. The intent clearly in that was any new development, the utilities need to be underground. This puts a burden. These people have already gone through the trouble, but it puts a burden on them to get something that obviously you can't afford to do. So why do we force them through that process each time? I think the request was that in our next modifications to the general plan, the ordinances, the design guidelines, whatever it is, that there be some wording in there that removes this requirement from obviously wrong area, the wrong place. So
Yeah, and you're correct. There was a discussion at the council meeting in regards to that. Again, staffing is what it was. I was the only planner here. I didn't have time to
Yeah,
kind
why
of
didn't
do
you
that
fix
kind of
it?
stuff. So, but there was discussion at that time about, well, is there a right number? There isn't a right number. I know I'm kind of going sideways,
Yeah.
but something that we can definitely think about and bring back. Because we want, maybe a 20 lot subdivision to underground their utilities, but maybe a 4-unit subdivision or parcel map. Maybe we shouldn't require it. That's a question that you guys will eventually get, hopefully sometime soon.
well, and I think also if you're talking about a 20-unit subdivision, the market's going to drive the desire to put them underground. So you have the justification. But we've got a lot of parcels that are subdividable into 2, 3, 4 lots in the town that we'd like filled. Well, if every time you have to go through this, right, and I don't know how, I can't come up with a wording, but somebody that, Nita? Somebody come up with a wording that makes that maybe just an administrative decision. I don't know.
So in the report, it references that the general plan has some language in there that talks about how undergrounding of utilities is encouraged. Travis, do you know in our just standards, like general city standards, is that just a blanket sort of requirement that, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry,
Yeah.
it's in the municipal code.
Oh, okay.
It's under the subdivision section of the municipal code. It's 17.
Yeah, it is. It's
1740-040.
Yes.
It's a regulation. It says all,
Yeah.
everything should be underground.
So it doesn't give very much flexibility, right? Like when we're reviewing them, because when, Rob gets a project like this, what he does is he goes to the book and the book sort of dictates how he reviews it. But what we could do as an interim solution is we could have a policy while the Muni code update takes a little time that, to the extent that these projects come forward, that we're not going to be enforcing that component of our municipal code as it's conceived the city council would like to review where that's appropriate and not appropriate. But it's a pretty minor change, so we probably could just put that on the docket. I know that's not the item tonight, but I'm hearing you, so.
Edit in.
But one more thing, I do think that the point that Rob made is important. That requires a little extra thought to it because from my perspective, once this project develops, these will never be undergrounded, ever. The Rule 20A that was used to be a PG&E program, that money is mostly dried up now. And so, that's okay, right? But it just it's a decision with broader policy
I think it's a
implications.
very valid point. It's the purpose of undergrounding all of that was both to beautify the downtown, but also to, we see the issues with PG&E, with tree trimming and all of that. And some of these overhead lines are running through trees and there are responsibilities. So.
Councilmember Lortson, do you have any questions or comments?
No.
Councilmember Sahai.
I do.
Counting on it.
I think that Sean was reading my face, which is why he gave some follow-up comments. So I wasn't here in 2018, so you guys are going to need to walk me through your justifications. Undergrounding is not only beautification, but it's a fire risk to have those above ground. So I would love to hear, and I know I wasn't here in 2018 and Chief was on the force, but fire wasn't under PD in 2018. So I would love to know why we're eager to not require it. I know it's a burden on the developer, but I feel like in terms of like maintenance of like mitigating our risk as the state's only getting increasingly burning every summer to where like our skies are black. Like, why are we in a rush to waive it? I know that it's small. I get that. I get the scale and affordability. I get that. But like, walk me through why I want to waive an undergrounding requirement, because I'm pretty prone to saying I think that they should be.
I agree with underground. And I would love to get a grant under the fire code to underground our utilities in the city. It is unconscionable to require somebody to, generally you have to put a pole in so that you can go underground for 4 lots and come back up again. That's not a fire break. That's not, it's, so you've got 200 feet out of 7 miles. The problems that you're approaching or talking about is the whole problem of above ground utilities. And I don't think
So you're
solving
saying
it
that
should
if
five.
you're saying if it's a small enough project, it doesn't create a
then-
reduced enough risk to matter to apply the policy.
and or aesthetics, either one.
What are your thoughts? You knew that was coming.
Speaking strictly from a safety standpoint, anytime you can underground, that's ideal.
Particularly as it goes towards the east part of town, we're approaching where we're more vulnerable, closer to the foothills. It would not be very hard for there to be a fire up there and sparks to come down. And then if there's anything for it to attach to, and then I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, my response would be if you can underground. But I understand all the other elements at play. But from a public safety standpoint, underground is the way to go.
Let me ask you again, back to the 2018 when I wasn't here. What about this project is like helpful to Lincoln? Like, convince me. You know what I mean? Like, so if it's in the context of, hey, we're gonna underground, we're gonna waive an undergrounding requirement because we need these houses, because it fills a housing need, it's attainable, it's affordable, whatever it is, it's filling our grand vision. Okay.
So let me give you
Yeah.
my logic at the time. Rob, what was the projected cost of undergrounding back in the day? 200, 250?
About 200.
4 lots, $200,000. That's the additional cost to the price of that home.
That's 250 per lot or for the whole?
No, $200,000 for the,
For the whole thing.
right. So,
In 2018.
right. So you've added 50 grand onto the purchase price of a home.
What? Just plain devil's advocate, why do we need those 4 lots developed?
You don't, they can sit raw. They can be fallow forever.
Are they more of an exposure or danger to us raw than having overground utilities?
Well, if you think about it, either if you were to hold fast to the policy, it likely doesn't develop and they still are overhead. Right? So like in this case, there's really no difference, but one idea that Travis just pinged me with, which I'm angry at myself I didn't think of, is a lot of cities have in lieu fees. So in other words, like for example, Claremont is one example I remember reading about, that if the planning department or engineering department determines that undergrounding is infeasible, small project, whatever, they pay an in lieu fee to the city, some much lesser amount, which then goes into a kitty, and then the city decides strategically to do undergrounding projects when it builds up enough to do, which is
I
kind
like
of
that
interesting
idea.
idea.
Can we do that? So that if like, you know, like you were just saying, 4 parcels by 4 parcels, and then all of a sudden we have this patchwork of all of these overground, and maybe we have an account where now it makes sense to invest in it and to then underground it at some point. Like, that's what you're saying, right? That it would go towards that, so that when it makes sense to do so on a scale, you could.
It works very similar to how parking in lieu fee works. Like if you can't provide the parking, like in a downtown project, for
Right.
example, you pay into a program and we eventually build another parking lot to serve the area.
I would be.
I like that idea. I would feel much
Very
better
interesting.
about
Worth
that
exploring.
idea
Yeah.
personally. I just feel like I get it in the context of, hey, we're looking at this 4, but like now another 4 and another 4, and we're on the east side of town, and now we have underground and overground, and we have a patchwork, and we have fire risk, and like, why are we not thinking like comprehensively?
Fair point. I think the other thing to point out is a small project like this is not going to be a big developer with deep pockets. It's going to be somebody very small.
No, I get
who's gonna
that.
Have to front that.
Which is
money
why I like the
themselves.
idea of trying to like have an assist, why we still are able to take care of the overall needs once it becomes an actual issue.
Well, you
That's all I
asked-
had.
Yeah, thank you. Well, you actually asked my question. So I will open a public hearing for testimony. Is there any comments on Zoom?
No hands are raised, Mayor.
Any testimony in the council chambers? No? Okay. Close the public hearing, come back to the council.
I'll move the item.
Second,
Does moving this item prohibit us from exploring? And nope, all right, then I'm good.
It prohibits you from exploring it on this project, but
Yeah.
not in future.
Others.
Adopt that fee, we would have to go through a fee adoption process. And it would not be retroactive.
So let me just ask one more question then. Just because I feel like I've sat through 3.5 years of where I'm the one being like, who was actually sitting up there making these choices and why is it a patchwork? Like, I just want to make sure I'm not voting on things that are creating a future patchwork. Tell me why I am not, so I can vote for this.
Well, if your colleagues agree with you, when we bring back some type of program like you've discussed, what would be happening is future projects pay into this program. It takes a while to build up. It's actually very similar to PG&E's Rule 20 kind of program. And then the city in its sole discretion can determine where's the best places for us to underground, where are the highest risks, where's the, what areas of town are just littered with overhead lines and just looks awful. And so we need to fix those. And it could be this area. It could be, I don't believe there's any reason that you have to necessarily use it in the area that you collected it from. So provided that the council wanted to move forward with that, you would be creating a system that addresses this long-term.
All right. I think I'm going to abstain tonight just because I just feel like it's bigger and I think the votes are here. So I don't think.
Madam Mayor, can I ask Rob one more question?
Sure can. Go right ahead.
Is there a way to do conduit that would allow for undergrounding at a future date, but not have that
Oh, there's an
current
idea.
cost?
I think that's a great idea.
I
think-
like that
I think we
idea.
can probably do something like that, definitely. Just, I have to interject one quick thing. This area, unfortunately, there isn't a lot of properties to develop. All the properties are single-family residential to the north, to the west. To the east is actually Village 1, so that will eventually start to develop. So in this particular situation, it's all overhead utilities and it's single family residential. And there's no way that we'd be able to require somebody to underground their overhead utilities. The idea for the in lieu fee, I think, is phenomenal because then we can use it in this situation as well if we really felt the need to do that. So I just had to interject a quick little.
Did you have any more comments or questions? Well, because I
It's
don't,
just the older part of town is the challenge.
that's the thing, I don't,
It's kind of, it's just nagging at me a little, I
Well, I
gotta
don't
say. And I
disagree.
wasn't here for the other part of it. So I feel like this is like expected to be this like easy, hey, we've been here, done that move, but I wasn't here. I haven't been there. I haven't done it and I don't love it. And no, like the developer didn't reach out to me. It's not like I've had these conversations. It's just, it just feels naggy to me, like where it is and what future implications might be. I don't know.
I don't disagree with you. I think that if we moving forward, that we do this idea that we talked about, but knowing that area of town like we do, I think it's really difficult, you know, the term, you can't put new wine in old wineskins, you know, because it is the way it is over there. And and I agree, I'm not one to, you know, just purposely make it easier on developers, right? Like, I don't want to make it harder on them, but I'm not inclined to just give them whatever they want. But in this case, I think it is putting too much of a burden and it's different than the whole community over there. So I don't see how it benefits to make them do that in this particular.
Yeah, to the point of Dan's point, it's such a
Yes,
small
it is.
footprint
It
in a
is.
larger problem.
It is. Yeah. So, but moving forward though, I think that we
You know,
should
the
definitely.
other-
have them.
The other thing with doing the in lieu is you can tie that, even if you're going to drill kind of, you can tie it with the street in your street repair to lessen the cost. The cost gets in where you come down
Mhm.
100 feet later, you have to go back up. You know, if you do the whole, you probably could do the whole block for the cost of doing the
Right.
4 lots.
Well, could we
Just
work
to-
on a strategy to like accommodate that whole, like as a future vision? Like I like the idea of maybe even requiring the conduit to be laid as part of the project for future ability and then an in lieu, like whatever combo, I'm not sure, right? So that we have resources. Like the first thing that came to my mind, which I know this is very small scale of it, but we've spent how many years now trying to fix our disproportionate tax share agreements? And it was like, oh, well, this one's this and this one's that. And now we have big endemic problems on how we are able to finance anything we need to do. I know this isn't that on a larger scale, but it does feel a little like those little small patchwork choices. I don't love it. I'd love to have like a solution to it and be able to let this one go and like know that we're thinking of it moving forward.
Yes, so we're updating our master fee schedule right now, so it's actually kind of a good time to work something like that in. And we'll have to, you'll have to discuss where it applies, where it doesn't, because of course you'd have situations that would come up if it was a blanket policy that, oh, well, you know, I'm building a 500 unit subdivision and I just don't want underground power, so I'll pay the fee because it's cheaper. You don't want that either.
Yeah, no,
right?
that's a no.
But the other component to it is, it's sort of frustrating is in really old areas of communities, if like, let's say you just held the line and said, nope, you have to underground power here. What you end up having, it doesn't really put you in any better position. You have power lines, then no power lines, and then power lines, right? On the other side. So we really, I think the council really needs to address it sort of globally if you want to make a dent.
Right, no, agreed.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
Yes, Councilmember Joyner.
This is a public hearing, yes?
She opened
already
and
closed it.
closed it
Already
with no
closed it.
comment.
Yes.
Councilmember Carlskent,
Yes.
Councilmember Lauritsen,
Yes.
Councilmember Silhai,
Yes, but I really look forward to the other conversation.
and Mayor Andriotta.
Okay. All right, item number 10, general business, 10A, adopt resolution 2022-131, approving the memorandum of understanding between the Lincoln Police Officers Association and the City of Lincoln. Our Human Resources Director, Veronica Rodriguez, will give a staff report. Hi.
I'm pleased to announce that after a year of negotiations, we
No, mine's not on.
reached a tentative agreement with the Did you hear all that?
Yeah,
Okay.
we did.
We've reached a tentative agreement with the Lincoln Police Officers Association. And so the item before you this evening is a request for approval of that tentative agreement and the related salary schedules. The Lincoln Police Officers Association, which we also refer to as LPOA, their memorandum of understanding, which here on out will be referred to as the MOU, expired on June 30th, 2020, after a 24-month term. And as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and the financial uncertainty that accompanied that, we agreed with the LPOA for an extension of 6 months. And so that took us through December 30th, 2020. So the successor MOU will cover December 31st, 2020 through December 31st, 2024 for a 4-year term. The LPOA group consists of 33 staff, which include police officers, dispatchers, a community service officer, newly established positions of a property and evidence technician, and a police records clerk. The significant elements of the successor MOU are as follows. There are base wage increases, which include a retroactive payment effective January 1st, 2021 of 3%. Then there's a retroactive increase of 3% effective January 1, 2022. Moving forward, there will be an increase of 2.5% effective January 1st, 2023, and another on January 1, 2024 of 2.5%. The total base wage increase over the 4-year term is 11%. The next component of this agreement are 2 non-PERSable lump sum payments. And the first is $4,000 upon adoption of the MOU. And the second is $3,000 on January 1st, 2023 for all members covered by the MOU. The next component is a post-certification incentive pay up to 5% for advanced and intermediate certifications. This will greatly increase our ability to recruit from other departments and help us to also retain staff. The last component of the agreement is an increase in the LPOA life insurance policies from $45,000 to $100,000. So the total fiscal impact for this agreement is $1,141,637 over the 4-year term. For the current fiscal year, the cost is $19,283, which can be absorbed in the existing budget. The one thing I do want to point out is for the retroactive payments and the other lump sum payments, those are going to be covered in the ARPA funds, so they won't come out of the existing budget. And this concludes my presentation. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you, Veronica, for all your hard work on this. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, any questions or comments from the council?
Just thank you.
Okay.
Pleased that we have agreement.
You work really hard for making sure that it all happens and that we have good relationships, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Bill, did you have any questions or comments?
I don't want to jinx this, no.
Okay. Any public comments on
So
Zoom?
no hands on Zoom, Mayor.
Anybody in the gallery? No? Okay, bring it back and I'll,
Madam Mayor, if I
Oh,
could just make one
yes, you sure
correction.
can. Yeah.
Apologies.
no, it's okay.
The additional retro payments and the lump sum payment will actually be funded out of the standard allowance funds, not the ARPA funds.
Okay,
Just a slight.
I didn't know there was a difference. I'm not from finance, so I
Yeah,
apologize.
No
let me,
problem.
let me just be really clear about why it's so important that we keep saying that, is that the dollars that we're using are from the $10 million standard allowance, which are now allowed to be
General
used for
fund.
governmental services.
So is
Whereas,
that
So you weren't
unrestricted,
wrong.
Unrestricted.
They came from the same place, but we then took it and we said, we have the right under a standard allowance to put this towards the general fund for unrestricted uses that also align with ARPA uses. So it's not actually fully unrestricted uses. It gets complicated, but so they're different, but the same.
Thank you, but I still don't want to be
Yeah.
in finance.
Me neither. Thank you, Nita.
They're both correct.
Change in color of money. Yeah.
Okay, I'll take a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, roll call, please.
Yes, Councilmember Silhai.
Yes.
Councilmember Carlskent.
yes.
Councilmember Joyner.
Yes.
Councilmember Lauritsen.
Yes.
And Mayor Andriana.
Yes. Hey, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Okay, item 10B, adopt successor agency resolution 2022-03S, authorizing the refinance and buyout of the owner participation agreement loan and ground lease for Lincoln Terrace Low Income Housing Project. And Nita Rucker is going to present this, and are you?
And yes,
going to-
so Madam Mayor, before you get started, I am going to recuse myself on this item. My family has property within 400 feet of the project. So
Okay. Thank you.
this is our last item. I have nothing for council initiated business or information items. So if there's no objection, I'm going to head home.
You're free to go.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
I drove by there one time.
Not everyone can recuse themselves now. Somebody has to stay.
That's fine. All right, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. The item that we have before you is for a buyout of the successor agency owner participation agreement loan and the ground lease for the property known commonly as the Lincoln Terrace Apartments. It's a low-income housing project. Back in 2003, the redevelopment agency entered to the owner participation agreement as well as a ground lease with the Lincoln Terrace California Limited Partnership. The purpose of the partnership agreement was to construct the low-income housing project as well as to provide that ground lease document. The principals for that entity, the Lincoln Terrace Limited Partnership, have come forward asking to buy out the ownership agreement as well as refinance the ownership agreement and buy out the ground lease and terminate the ground lease. Because this project was initiated under the redevelopment agency, there is a multi-step process. This is the first step, asking for council approval. It will then go to the Placer County Oversight Board and eventually to the Department of Finance. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. It is kind of a complicated item since it is formally redevelopment.
Why did we have a ground lease, give a ground lease on that property? Was it something that the RDA acquired rather than, selling land for $1?
So yeah, so the background on it is hazy at best, but typically the reason that was happening in those days was to ensure a few things. One is that the project operated as it should, as an affordable project. So if you have it's different than having a loan where there's financial implications. The ground lease allows you to enforce some of those. So a lot of redevelopment agencies at the time were doing those deals to make sure that, 5 years down the road, they didn't just switch it to market rate, housing.
And it was also more common to do the dollar lease for a fellow government agency as opposed to a private entity like a partnership or a corporation.
Well, that's true. And the lease buyout, not that it's going to make a lot of difference to the city because we're going to see very little of this money, but just why isn't the buyout at current market value?
But then we're calculating the buyout at the future value or the present of the future payments. So it's not the current lease payments due, but that present value of the future payments that we're talking about.
Okay. I have no
Councilmember
more
Lauritsen, do
questions.
you have any questions?
Actually, no.
You asked a lot of mine.
I have no questions either. Any public comment on this item?
No hands are raised on Zoom.
Okay, Mr. Chapman?
Once again, Byron Chapman. Thank you, Mayor, council members. When I went through this, by the time I got through reading through it, I was like, I have no idea what I just read. So maybe the mayor was kind of hitting on where I'm going with this as well. Can anyone, I'd like to use the term in layman terms, the advantage, disadvantage, or across the board, how does that affect City of Lincoln? That's what I'm really looking at. I kind of understood what they're doing with it. I just didn't see the pluses or the minuses as to how that affects the city. So if someone could explain it or get close to that, I'd appreciate it, because
Okay.
I was just kind of.
It's a really good question. You know, as I said, it's kind of complicated since it was through the former redevelopment agency. So when a parcel or a project is or was turned over to redevelopment, it's removed from the city's boundaries. As a matter of fact, it's no longer a city parcel. It's no longer a city project. It doesn't belong to the city. It belonged to the redevelopment agency. Even though redevelopment agencies were abolished, probably isn't the right word, but we're going to go with terminated. Even though redevelopment agencies were terminated, this project, this parcel, this structure still belongs to the former redevelopment agency. So there really isn't a plus or a minus to the city because it's not our project. And as one of our council members mentioned, that the funds for the refinance and buyout, they don't come back to the city. Because of this long convoluted process, they really go to the state. The state will then determine how much of those redevelopment dollars should come back to the county. The county will determine how much of their share comes to the city. So there is no really plus or minus to us.
That means we get zero.
Yeah,
So I
They'll
think
get a small amount. It's just undetermined. how
we
much.
don't, I won't go into a long dissertation about it, but just so that everybody understands, the way that redevelopment used to work is that it took property taxes, which is a pie chart, right, of 100%. And this is why it was so great. It diverted small portions of each taxing entity's share and pushed them to the redevelopment agency. So then redevelopment agencies could do cool things like bond against those revenues, build big, great affordable housing projects or downtown renovations. And so what the state did when they, and I will say, abolished redevelopment is all of the cities had made the point, listen, what you're doing is you're not only taking away our one tool to redevelop our community, but there is massive debts that will remain on the books for a long time. And the state said, okay, that's fine. We'll create a process whereby over a really long period of time, those are paid off, or situations like this come up, those go to a successor agency. There's financial staff that go through and calculate who should have received those revenues, and they're divvied back to their individual communities. So I got very excited at first because I wasn't really thinking about that part of the process. And I thought, wow, that would be great if we got $2 million to come back into the general fund. And then I realized it's probably going to be more like some small, not even a tenth of that.
yeah, we're really right now, we're sitting as the successor agency board, not city council.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why the resolution numbering is different, that it's the resolution itself is addressed to that successor agency board and not necessarily the city council board, which you are all members of.
Thank you, Nita. Okay, any other public comments? Okay, I'll bring it back to the council, and if there's no other comments or questions, I'll accept a motion to approve this item.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Yes, thank you. Councilmember Carl Skint.
Yeah.
Councilmember Silhai.
Yes.
Councilmember Lauritsen.
Yes.
and Mayor Andriotta.
Yes. All right, thank you. Okay, item number 11, council initiated business. I do have one thing, but Dan, do you have anything? Bill, do you have anything?
No.
Alyssa? Okay, I have something that's, it's a little bit minor in comparison to all the other big things that we're dealing with. And I don't expect you guys to do anything about it right this moment. I just want to put it on your radar. I know that, staffing issues might make it well, it is a really low priority, but it's something that's really been bugging me for a long time. How do we enforce people not putting their signs on our beautiful green light posts in downtown and on Lincoln Boulevard? I realize, in the inside of towns and they put them on light poles or, stop signs or whatever. Okay. But in the middle of town on those really nice green light poles, they're already covered with tape, they're covered with signs, and it drives me crazy.
So Mayor, that is a code enforcement function.
Yes.
We are holding interviews tomorrow and are looking to hire, hopefully we have 2 successful candidates. It is a very significant concern. I know in my previous jurisdiction, we did some basic calculations and we estimated that just the tape removal and painting to keep those light poles maintained cost in the area of $50,000 to $60,000 a year. And so, fortunately, a lot of people that put those signs up coincidentally put their address on those signs. And so when it comes to enforcement, it is something that we would have to task a code enforcement officer with going around on a Monday morning, collecting those signs and issuing notices of violation or citations.
You're gonna see Mayor Holly out there with her cell phone, taking pictures.
Well, Mayor Harley could also take those signs down and drop them off at my office. I would be more than happy
actually-
to refer them to a code enforcement
I've
officer.
actually stopped and pulled signs down and stood there in the busy
I
traffic
believe it.
pulling tape off this.
Well,
Well,
it
it-
is a problem.
it
You're
is
not
a
wrong.
problem,
You're
and
not
it-
wrong.
and it-
I
it is
understand. I live in
totally-
the Old Town area as well, so I
Yes, okay.
appreciate that concern. But so yes, that
Oh, no,
is
I didn't
something
mean to. Yeah.
we
I was
will,
like a
we will
tease you.
definitely put it on our code enforcement radar and perhaps even start doing some community educational outreach.
I
was
love
think-
that idea.
I was thinking that too.
I love
was
that
gonna
idea.
Be one of my suggestions that we just kind of start pushing it out there. Look, hey, look, I love a yard sale just as much as the next person. But let's find a different way to advertise and don't put them on my nice.
Well, I
green
think that our
light.
community has a lot of pride of like our
do.
community and not everyone is thinking about like the cost of tape, residue on
Right.
a buildup on a lamp post and what that actually means,
And then there's the stop signs that have so many nail holes in them, they're about to fall over, right? Like, it's true. All right, so thank you for that. I appreciate that. Okay, item number 12, any information items? Any information items? No? All right, thank you, everybody. We are adjourned. Pretty good one, an hour.